certainly one message which has occurred to me during this coronavirus pandemic is how all of humanity is one, how we're all linked together. And God says always in our scriptures, you're all one humanity and I'm your one God. So worship me and do not divide yourselves into groups and sects and pointing the finger at each other or thinking yourself superior to others based upon your color of your skin or whatever. No. And this coronavirus is testing our capacity to love each other, to reach out to each other. And it has made us think about how in this new era of digital interconnectivity and how we can connect with people, not only within our own physically reachable locality, but how we can create communities and bonds globally. Allah tells us that all you human beings, in spite of your variety, you're all one. You're one nation, you're one people, you're one species, and I'm your one Lord. So worship me and worship me alone.
I am not a real person unless I face other people, unless I look into their eyes and let them look into mine. I am not a real person without relationship. And the fact that relationship has become difficult for the time being helps me to value it all the more, to see how important solidarity with others is, and that it's not to be taken for granted. Let me illustrate that. I try to go every day for a walk by myself. We're allowed to do that. And I walk around the streets close to where I live. Usually the streets are very empty. Yesterday I walked for half an hour and only once did a car pass me. But I notice that when somebody does pass on the other side of the street, very often we greet one another. In the past, we wouldn't have done that. We'd have taken the presence of the other for granted. We would have ignored them. But now we do greet people, and that to me is something positive. I am only really a person if I greet other people. I need you in order to be myself. That's something we've been reminded of with the present situation. I hope that as we return to what we regard as normal life, that we shall retain something of this sense of the value of persons, that we should not treat others as objects, and that we should not take them for granted. There's nothing more important in the world than personal relations. My personal relations with God, who I truly believe is personal, and my personal relations with my fellow humans. And when the second becomes easier, I hope I won't forget about the first.
From a spiritual awareness, I know that you and I are brothers, sister and brother, but even beyond that, just soul to soul, we are brothers. And when I practice soul consciousness, I see you as my brother. Not even just when I'm meditating, but now just communicating with you, I'm aware of I, the soul, I'm connecting with you as a soul. And so it means now that my attitude towards you is one without any barriers or boundaries or masks. And so I can have empathy for you when you're having a hard time. I can smile when you're happy and join you in laughter. And so it's a solidarity, not just with you, one individual, but it's a solidarity with all people. It's going to be a connection that we have all together, in which it's going to be children of the one parent, the one supreme. So I see that in meditation, when I meditate and I'm connected with one, then those vibrations reach everyone, but those vibrations reach specifically those who are also in tune with these ideas.
Now, what this crisis does, if we can look at the silver lining of a real mess, we can also see that it brings us together in some important ways. We can no longer pretend that we're an isolated individual just concerned about ourselves. We're all in this together. I mean, this is a human problem. It's global, right? And how the virus progresses in Bangladesh or Norway affects all of us. You know, we're all human. It brings humanity together. The cause is very unfortunate, but it can also lead us to an awareness of how we are all interrelated. And this is important from an environmental standpoint, too, because often we think, well, you know, who cares whether I recycle? Who cares how long a shower I take? But now, if we're smart, we'll wake up and see that all of those decisions, all those plastic bottles, you know, in our bathrooms, all of that affects our planet, and it's bringing life into an imbalance that's causing a lot of infections and viruses to flourish. It's creating an environment that's out of balance. This is an opportunity to understand our interconnection and our mutual responsibilities. In these ways, a realization of interconnectedness can really awaken our awareness and change the world in small ways, but together can make a big difference.
So from a Baha'i point of view, really what we have to remember is that everything is interconnected and that we are not alone, that God is with us. God is intimately with us, but we are in our consciousness forgetful of our true identity. And that means that we are one with all reality. All beings from a Baha'i point of view are reflections of divine attributes. And so everything is a mirror, whether it is nature or humans, which are reflecting divine attributes. Therefore, everything is interconnected. It is important that we would be conscious of the needs of others. In particular, at this time, there are certain groups of people, particularly the elderly, that might be in a situation of extreme needs. And it is not just the duty of a state and social institutions to take care of these needs. Every individual should feel responsible for helping. One of the writings of the Bab discusses and says that when you are asked a question, you have to respond. And then he explains this, and he says that the meaning of this is that it becomes a symbol that whenever any person has a need and is asking you, that you feel responsible to do your utmost in order to fulfill that. And then he says that a truly spiritual person doesn't wait for a person to ask for help, rather looks at the language of the situation of that person, of the conditions of the home of that person. And if the condition of life, the situation of that person is speaking to you and is asking for help, expressing a need, it is your spiritual duty to affirm and respond. So the question of responding, when you are asked a question, you have to respond, then it becomes the occasion for this wonderful general spiritual approach in which you feel responsibility to all humanity. And so for me, this also again becomes a wonderful opportunity that we become aware and conscious of the needs of others. not to become a narcissistic person who is only concerned with my needs right now, my fears right now, whether I'm going to die or not, and then panic and become really a miserable object. Rather, discover your divine power and your sense of responsibility and your connection to others, and try as much as we can to help those who are in need.
We've created very quickly 4 ways of being together in the community. The first, and we call all of them in names, in Jewish names, but the first one is really creating, we call it Et Ledaber. It's buddies who call each other within the community every day to check and see how they are, to check and see if they feel unwell, if they need medicine, if they need money, if they need food, and just if they need a friend to be talking to. So each person in the community has a buddy who calls him, and we've organized it in a few days to make sure that no one stays alone and behind. It could be a mother who's now with her children by herself in the house, and she's a single mother, and she needs someone to talk to her every morning just to know that she's okay, or every evening. And it could be a person who lives by themselves, young or old. No one will stay behind. No one will stay by themselves. And each one who wants has a buddy. That's the first thing. The second thing is sort of broadcasting creation that we've created in a few days. We call it Et Lirpo, a time to heal, 3 times a day, just like we have 3 times a day prayers in the Jewish tradition. We broadcast to the whole community and to whoever wants to be with us. We start the morning with either prayer or singing or yoga or meditation, together with whoever wants to be. And afterwards, in the afternoon, we eat together and we learn Torah together, and we learn with scholars from all around Israel who teach us, and they come from different languages, different places, just to make sure that the medicine of the divine is brought forth by everyone, and we learn from everyone in this moment, and it brings solidarity between communities. The third thing is called Et Lachavok, a time to embrace, thank you. And we make sure that every person who might be unseen is seen. So people who need, as I said, medicine, groceries, things like this, we have a whole world of youngsters who just bring it to their door, who make sure they have what they need. Asylum seekers who don't have food right now for themselves, for their children. There's a group of young asylum seekers that we've been escorting and actually saving in the past 2 years. And we are now making sure that each one of them has insurance, medical insurance. And the last one is Time to Love, which is sort of morning birds that I send every morning to the whole community, just to make sure that we keep our faith above the water, that we make sure to see each other. And through that realm, we create prayers for all the community, such as a prayer that we had a week ago, where all the community gathered with all the other community and friends that we have in Jerusalem and in Israel, who come from Palestinian backgrounds, Jewish backgrounds, Israeli backgrounds, Christian backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds. And we prayed together for our families, for our world, for our human family, one human family.